So it's 2017, we're in Afghanistan, and the mission is to fly these Puma helicopters around Kabul and the surrounding area to allow friendly forces to get safely from A to B, because it's safer to go by air than it is to go by road because of roadside bombs. And we fly to a lot of the same landing sites every day. We're essentially a glorified bus service, if you like. And on this particular day, I am the second aircraft in a pair. Now, when we fly in places like Afghanistan or Iraq, we accept that not everybody is delighted to have us there. And if we get into trouble and we have to land somewhere in the middle of nowhere, the locals might not be that friendly, shall we say. So we always fly as a pair of aircraft so that there's someone else to come and help us if we get in trouble. And on this particular day, I am following closely behind the number one aircraft, and we're flying into a landing site that I fly into very regularly. And when I'm on short finals, my aircraft starts to drop out of the sky like a stone. So I pull in the collective lever, which is the thing that makes you go up in a helicopter, and nothing happens. We keep falling out of the sky. So I pull in a bit more, still sinking. So I really have to sort of pull in quite a bit and really go for it. And we manage to intercept our approach angle, and we make a safe landing in the landing site. And when I land, the co-pilot turns to me and he says, "You've overtalked the aircraft. You pulled too much power." I can't be sure, but he sounded a bit angry. I mean, he did have a Scottish accent. Sometimes they sound angry anyway. But I just remember registering that as, he doesn't think I should have done that. He thinks I messed that up. So I sort of put that to one side and carried on flying. You can't really think about too much when you're flying. You're concentrating on the actual flying itself, as Maverick in Top Gun very famously and correctly once said, "If you think, you're dead." And that's true. So I didn't really have time to think about this. So I carried on flying my mission, which we did very successfully. And as I came to the end of the mission, I was coming back to my home base, which was on the northern side of Kabul airport. And I was coming into my normal taxiing parking spot. And my thoughts sort of returned to that comment. And I remember feeling a little bit flat. So I went to bring the aircraft to a stop, and we have a parking brake in the Puma helicopter, very similar to a handbrake like you might have in your car. And bear in mind, this helicopter is about 40 years old. So it's like a vintage car. There's a certain knack to getting things done. And so this parking brake was a sort of pull up and engage. And you had to really kind of hoik it up with a bit of force and quite a prompt upwards action to get it to go into place. So this is what I did, except it wasn't the parking brake that I'd selected. It was the collective lever, the thing that makes you go up. So our aircraft suddenly skipped about 10 foot into the air. Now, the Puma is renowned for being quite a narrow helicopter with a high center of gravity, which basically means it falls over really easily. So everybody on that aircraft at that moment basically crapped themselves, because we all thought we were going to fall over and spin ourselves to death. Fortunately, the aircraft landed safely on all three wheels, at which point my co-pilot looks at me again and says, "What happened there?" And that is the moment when I realized that my mind had not been where it needed to be. And I just want to say that again. My mind was not where I needed it to be. And we'll return to that. We went in to do our debrief from the mission, and someone said to me, are you okay? Are you okay to fly tonight? At which point my voice completely betrayed me, and it was very obvious that I was fighting back the tears, which was hugely embarrassing because I was in charge of this particular camp, 120 people, and I'd just basically broken down in tears in front of all of them. And I remember at that moment resolving not to do that again. I needed to be strong for these people. When I returned a few months later, I learned that I'd earned myself a nickname when I was on this detachment, this operational tour. I'd earned myself the nickname of Jekyll and Hyde. Apparently, I was renowned for being a little bit emotional and a little bit up and down. And I was pretty gutted, to be honest. It took me quite a long time to move past that. And I realize now that my secret mission back then and all along, I think, from a very young age, my mission was to be Superwoman. I wanted to be the best pilot. I wanted to be the best leader. I wanted to be the best mother. No, let's be real. I wanted to be the thinnest mother. And I realized that not only did people not think I was Superwoman, some people didn't even like me that much. And I was devastated. And I went through a phase where that really consumed me. And it really kind of got to me. And I remember thinking, yeah, you know, I know that I'm emotional, but you have no idea how hard I am trying every day to be this person that I think you want me to be. And I was really angry. And I felt really kind of misunderstood. And I desperately wanted to feel less angry and be this kind of cruisy person. So I tried cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy works on the principle that something happens and your brain produces thoughts, mental events, to make sense of what's happening. And those thoughts are responsible for the emotions that we feel. So if we change our thoughts, we can change our emotions. So if you want to be less angry, you change your thoughts. And that's great in theory. But in reality, for me, I just ended up fighting with myself all the time. I was constantly wrestling my thoughts and trying to correct my thoughts and feeling bad for thinking a certain way. And it didn't work at all. I just ended up feeling more misunderstood and more angry. And as a result, I was pushing people even further away. And I felt like a total failure because I couldn't fix myself. And it was then that I tried to really throw myself into mindfulness. And I did an 8-week mindfulness course. And on about week 6 or 7, there's the loving kindness week. And there's this meditation that you do, and it's kind of a chanting thing. It's not really my thing, to be honest, where you sort of say, I wish myself love, I wish myself to be free of suffering. And I've been warned, you know, people find this quite hard. People find self-love quite hard. And I thought, don't be ridiculous. I'm a pilot. Pilots love themselves. This is not going to be difficult. So I started to do this meditation. And what happened really surprised me, because I found myself strongly resisting loving myself. And I became aware of this little voice that was saying, why would you love yourself, Sarah? You're moody, you're difficult. And for the first time, I just kind of sat with that. I didn't try and fight it, didn't try and wrestle it, change it, push it away or fuel it. I just sat with it like a good friend sits with you when you're in pain. And when I was able to do that, suddenly I was able to see this anger that I've been carrying as a mask that I'd been wearing to defend myself. And that underneath that mask, I was ashamed. I was ashamed of who I was. And I could see that beyond this tigress exterior, this feisty, confident outwards persona, that I was just a frightened, lonely girl who desperately wanted to be loved. And I remember something in me just kind of lifted at that point. And I realized I'm not broken after all. I'm just scared. I kept a diary, and this is an extract from my diary at the time. And I remember writing it, and I had tears of relief running down my face. I said, great news. I don't need to fix myself. I am not broken. I just need to look after myself. And you know what? I can do this. I am doing this. I may not be the perfect human being that I want to be, but I've come a long way and I know where I want to go. And that's enough. So what is mindfulness and how can it help? Well, let's go back to Afghanistan. Recall that I said my mind was not where it needed to be. And in that particular instance, that could have been the difference between life or death. So this is pretty important. So mindfulness gives us the ability to pay attention to what matters in that moment. In that moment, I was distracted because I was wondering whether or not someone thought I was a good pilot or not, as opposed to flying an aircraft. And for you, that might look like an email distracting you from a task that you're doing, or the doorbell ringing, or your child whining at you, or noticing some discomfort, feeling tired or stressed. These are all examples of your brain pulling your attention in a direction that you didn't ask it to go. And most of the time, there's nothing wrong with that. But there are, of course, times that can be spectacularly unhelpful. But you get to choose where you focus your attention. No matter how chaotic, no matter how bad things may seem, you always get to choose where you focus your energy and attention. And you can choose to focus it in a place that serves you, that is helpful. Whether that's refocusing on the task in hand or checking in with how you are, there's many ways to be mindful and to focus your attention where you want it to be. But every time you take charge of your brain and you focus your energy where you want it to be, you're starting on that important journey. So rather than dwelling on something which does you no favors, you can choose to focus your attention on where it needs to be and where it serves you best. So that's the first thing about mindfulness. And that's not the same, by the way, as avoidance. That's about giving yourself permission to let go of something for now and focus on something that you need to focus on right now. What else? Well, for me, it was a huge transformation in self-acceptance. So I found a way, rather than fighting my fear, which I've been doing for so long, I found a way just to sit with it. So what if I nearly cried in front of a load of people? And so what if this other pilot thought he was better? So what if he was better at flying? You know, I think I was trying so hard to be someone that I wasn't. I was actually pushing people away and becoming more brittle. So it didn't work. And really, what was I so afraid of? What was I fighting? So I've been described as moody, but I've also been described as passionate and fun and brave and self-aware. People often say to me, you're one of the most self-aware people that I know. And yet I use this self-awareness as this tool to beat myself with. And I'm not telling you this so you can feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this because I know I am not the only person that this is true for. We call it a fast jet debrief in the trade. Fast jet debriefs are famous for being brutally honest and not very good for the ego. But here's the thing, fast jet debriefs, using self-awareness to beat yourself up, it doesn't work. If you want to be the best you have to start believing it. So mindfulness gave me this ability to get to know myself and to start liking myself. And when you stop fighting who you are, you free up so much energy to be your wonderful self. So what about the military grade mindfulness bit? Well, that's what I refer to as distress tolerance. I'm going to share a secret with you that changed my life. You can tolerate discomfort. You can tolerate sadness. You can tolerate anxiety. You can tolerate stress. You can tolerate being disliked. You can tolerate being wrong. Now, your amygdala, your fight or flight system, won't want you to tolerate it. It wants you to react because that's what keeps you alive. And that's what it thinks keeps you alive. But you don't have to. The reality is that your emotions won't kill you. Flipping a helicopter into the ground, that will kill you. Being unpopular, that won't. So you can sit with discomfort. And that's not the same as bottling things up, by the way. That's about accepting your emotions without judgment and knowing that they will pass. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to let them be. And why is that important for you? Because the next time you're in crisis and your fight or flight, your amygdala is screaming at you, you have the ability just to tolerate it and not react to it. The next time you walk into a room to give a presentation and you're thinking, I'm terrified, I can't do this, you can say, I am terrified, but being terrified isn't going to kill me. I can tolerate this. And every time you do that, you're training your brain to be less reactive. And that's giving you more confidence and more agency to respond skillfully. So you don't need to change who you are, and you're not broken, but you can change your responses and you can respond more skillfully. So once I'd stopped beating myself up for nearly crying in front of 120 people, I was able to see that these emotions, these were clues, these were telling me this is important to you. And when I was able to do that, I was able to gain insight into my values. And mindfulness really helped me to gain the self-trust, to be able to lead the way that I felt was right. And it gave me the confidence to stand up to my boss, who used to always take the piss out of me and say I was too motherly and too protective of my people. And for a while, I sort of tried to conform, but I then realized, well, no, that is the way that feels right to me to lead. And yet I am very protective of my people. And actually, I think that's okay. I think people putting first is not only morally the right thing to do, but I think it's a smart thing to do. So I'm going to keep doing it my way. And I'm not saying it's the right way for everyone, but it gave me the ability to be the leader that I wanted to be, that felt right to me. The truth is, you don't need to change. You don't need to fix anything. That kindness, compassion, bravery, strength, whatever superpower it is that you desire, it's already there in you. You just need to make space for it. You just need to give yourself permission to let go of the shit that is dragging you down and be who you already are. And that's what mindfulness gives us. And you'll find that not only will you start seeing the best version of you, you'll start seeing the best version of everyone else around you. Your friends, family, your team. And you'll find that one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up and the things that you've been saying to yourself, those thoughts, without trying to do anything at all, those thoughts have changed. You're no longer thinking, why don't you believe in me? And you're now thinking, I believe in you. And that right there is a superpower, if you ask me. So where to start? Well, mindfulness is like anything. It takes practice and commitment. People often ask, how do you stay cool under fire? How do you know what to do when you're in a combat scenario? Well, the truth is that you don't stay cool under fire. You revert to your training. You train and you train and you train in peacetime, so that when the bullets are flying over your head, you don't have to think. You just revert to your automatic reactions that have been trained into you. And it's exactly the same for mindfulness. You train your mind and you train your mind and you train your mind, so that the next time you're in crisis, responding skillfully has become an automatic habit. I think that if there's a place for mindfulness in the cockpit of a helicopter in a war zone, I think there's a place for mindfulness just about anywhere. And my mission is to bring mindfulness to you in a way that's accessible and enjoyable, a way that works for you and can be easily implemented into your workplace. It doesn't involve meditating for 5 hours, chanting, becoming vegan, wearing hemp. If you want to do those things, knock yourself out, but you don't have to. And not only can you be mindful in the workplace, you can also be mindful whilst doing the things that you love. For me, my particular passion is drinking English wine in a glorious English vineyard, which is why I'm launching a mindfulness movement this summer. And there are lots of workshops and training days available. But if that's not your thing, there are other training options available. So if you'd like to know more about bespoke and off-the-shelf training options, then book a call with me or visit wellbeitcoach.com.